Hello, everyone, and welcome to the program. This is Sunday Politics on Channels Television. I'm Seun Okinbaloye in Lagos. It was a long week filled with emotions. A week we saw the unexpected. We witnessed a rampage and wanton destruction of properties and large-scale broad-day looting and vandalism of private and public properties. Today, federal ministers and some governors in the Southwest called at the government house in Lagos, where the governor of the state, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, led them to a tour of assessment of facilities and public properties destroyed over the past days. The Minister of Works and former Lagos Governor Babatunde Fashola spoke after the tour on behalf of the ministers. Take a listen to him.
The extent of the damage that we have seen, the destruction of property, except to say that we are sure that all will be well. For all to be well, we appeal that we should refrain from volatile, provocative, inciting messages and language. It is our wish that this calm will be a long, enduring one. It is one that we hope will help to bring down temperatures so that we can then stand away and begin what I believe will be an investigation which the federal government is also supporting and which the state has started that would really help us unravel how we got here.
That's Babatunde Fashola, the Minister of Works and Housing, who was also a former governor of Lagos State. A lot happened over the past weeks, and for a lot of Nigerians, the question of where do we go from here perhaps comes up every now and then. Today, a foremost Nigerian Pentecostal pastor and former vice presidential candidate, Tunde Bakare, spoke on his ideas on getting things right after all of these troubles.
I say it again, to those who have ears to hear, it has become clear that an excessively centralized government cannot sustain a culture of responsive leadership and responsible citizenship. As Nigerians begin to exercise the powers of the distinguished office of the citizen, we must demand a government that is close enough to facilitate our welfare and strong enough to provide security. This is why I'm confident that the current wave of people movement and individual responsibility will ultimately lead to the restructuring of our nation.
Pastor Tunde Bakare there. A deep assessment of the events of the past days is also a critical reasoning on how we got here, why, and the way forward for Nigeria. You heard there what Pastor Bakare said. Some of those things that are needed to be done to ensure that the peace we experience might be lasting and enduring. But how do we go about this with the view of what the president and the government of the day are doing in ensuring that things are gotten right? So tonight, let's take a look at how things, the approach of this government, and going forward, what are those critical needs that need to be done urgently. I'm being joined by the Minister of Water Resources, Mr. Suleiman Adamu. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for coming tonight on the program. You've heard and seen a lot of reactions of Nigerians to the events of the past days, including the speech of the president. First and foremost, let me get your quick reaction to what Pastor Bakare said there about the issue of restructuring this nation. He said all is pointing at what needs to be done, the restructuring of this country. Is it difficult for the government of the day to make that happen?
Thank you very much for having me. Good evening, viewers. First of all, let me join the rest of the country in expressing our condolence and sympathies to those that lost their lives or were maimed by these sad events that happened in the last 1 week. Well, I am not a student of political science, but one thing I know as a political animal is that the citizen of this country is that restructuring means to different people. So I'm not sure that we have even reached a consensus as a country as to what restructuring means. If you ask different people, they have different ideas of what restructuring is all about. But I think, for me, it's really not the problem of our constitution, but it is the problem of how we operate it. We have a constitution that is running this country, that is governing the affairs of this country. And if all and sundry, whether those in government or the governed, have been patriotic enough and honest enough to operate this constitution as it is, providing social justice to all and sundry, I don't think there is a problem. So I'm not particularly qualified. Like I said, I'm not a student of political science for me to be able to give a thesis about this restructuring issue.
Minister, if you look at the events of the past days and what we have experienced in the country, the crises here and there, security, be it a security crisis, economic crisis, all are begging for a bigger solution. They are not in themselves an isolated problem. So a lot of people are thought about how we can get out of here. Now we have a major crisis on our hands, and a lot of people are now looking at a bigger picture. For you, as a serving minister under this government, what do you think, perhaps, is this government thinking about that? Are you discussing it in your cabinet meetings on how to, in the bigger picture, resolve the problems of this country?
Well, certainly we are concerned and we're discussing it formally and informally. And for me, I think this is a wake-up call for the country. First of all, a lot has happened over the last, even long before the coming of this administration, regarding how the governance of the, as a whole. And I think going forward, definitely, for all tiers of government, there is going to be a rethink. But I think at federal level, there is nothing we have not done as a government to kind of ensure that, we provide this leadership at federal level. You've seen all the reforms that the president has tried to institute, giving local governments autonomy, giving the judiciary their own financial economy, and lots of other reforms that have been taking place. But I think people seem to have been ignoring all the milestones that have been reached. In fact, at a certain point, some of the things that are meant for the good of the country have been challenged by other tiers of government when they're in the best interest of the people. So going forward, I think there will be continuous dialogue. We'll increase our dialogue. There has been, in my view, my personal view over the years has been not only with this government, but over time, there has been some kind of disconnect, especially at state level, between the citizenry and their respective governments. And people tend to forget also that we have 3 tiers of government, and there are certain responsibilities that the states are the ones that need to deal with them. And there are certain responsibilities that the federal government has to deal with. But every time, some things are going wrong, it's the federal government that tends to get the short end of the stick. I'll give you an example. In my own ministry, a lot of people challenge me now and then that there is no water available in the country, in many cities, but they do not seem to understand that the primary responsibility lies with the state government to provide water, and that is why the federal government does not have a water board. Yes, there are reforms that need to be made. Lessons have been learned, and I think a lot is going to happen. But first of all, what is most important to the federal government at this time is for us to have peace, to have tranquility, and definitely questions will be asked. So much analysis will be done. Maybe some inquiry, some form of official inquiry will definitely be done. And at the end of the day, I'm sure President Buhari is more than committed to be able to ensure that the necessary steps are taken. Let's not forget that even the NSAS protests, I know as far back as 2018, the president initiated a reform of the police, and SARS in particular, and some recommendations have been made. But we also need to appreciate that sometimes government processes and procedures take a long time because everything has to be done according to the laws and according to regulations. And maybe the reforms took too long, but I think now there is a great cause for us to accelerate whatever reforms we need to do. But I can assure you our government is responsive and will definitely do what it takes to ensure that we restore confidence between the government and the governed, and to ensure that there's peace and prosperity in this country. We're not going to sit down and be licking our wounds on the basis of what happened last week, but we'll take it as a wake-up call and an inspiration to ensure that where mistakes have been made, they are corrected, so that we ensure that the citizenry get the benefits of being governed, of the dividends of democracy. But this is not a responsibility of the federal government alone. It is a responsibility of all the 36 states of the Federation as well, and the 774 local government authorities. There's a lot of work we must do, and I'm sure the federal government will provide the leadership for that to happen.
Honorable Minister Adamu, looking at the kind of team that brought this government into power in 2015 before getting re-election in 2019, it was huge, it was popular. But it does look like something dramatic has happened. Looking at the reactions of Nigerians to the president's speech a few days ago, are you worried about the level of connection of the federal government and the Nigerian people over the past days?
I think a lot of people have been unfair to President Muhammadu Buhari. It looks like head or tail, he loses. Whatever he says is misconstrued, or he, analyze and say he didn't say this, or he said this, or he didn't say that. This president is very, very concerned about the citizens of this country. Very, very, very concerned. And all his life, his views and his political philosophy has been to enhance the welfare of the common person. And I think people tend to have short memory, I'm sorry to say. Sometimes I call it deliberate amnesia. People forget the challenges that this government faced when it came. When we mention it, they say, okay, stop talking about it and tell us what you're going to do. Okay, we've done a lot. We met a complete mess. No savings, no nothing. The president has said it over and over again. First month when the president came into office, oil had dropped from what other governments used to enjoy it at 100 and 140 barrels a day to only $28 a barrel. And then barely 6 months later, we saw the continuous bombardment and explosion of crude oil pipelines, which resulted in us getting only about 500,000 to 600,000 barrels of crude per day, compared to 2.1, 2.3 million barrels that previous governments used to enjoy. So there have been a lot of problems. We inherited, the insurgency. Within a few months, we were able to make a lot of progress in getting them out of Nigerian territory. And then subsequently, this pandemic came. We've had also a lot of cases related to banditry and so on. And there are a lot of problems that this government has inherited. But along the way, we had the economic recovery and growth plan, which brought us out of recession. And we've been working on a new economic strategy and a new vision for the country to take us to the year 2050. A lot of things have been done, but I think those that are not happy or they don't like the face of President Muhammadu Buhari have continued to make rubbish of all these things. But we remain steadfast. This government will remain steadfast. We believe we're on the right track. Well, we've faced a lot of challenges. The COVID-19 pandemic has caused a lot of problems. Our economy was growing before the COVID-19 pandemic. And this is we are not, the whole world is not immune to it. We have seen larger economies, far, far larger economies are suffering much more than we've been suffering. But when there was such a situation of crisis, instead of the whole country to rally around and work together for us to get out of our problems, some people take it as an opportunity to exploit the situation, exploit the crevices and fissures around this country for whatever benefit, I don't know. I don't see how anybody can benefit if this country is on fire.
Honorable Minister, perhaps on the final question before you go, is on the issue of what we have experienced in the past days. There's been a larger scale of insecurity in the country. There's been looting and vandalism of public and private properties. But when you talk about the issue of restructuring, this government your political party, APC, had campaigned that it was going to restructure this country. It was a campaign promise. It wasn't Nigerians who were asking for it. It was your party who said they were going to restructure this country. At some point, the president has said true federalism is necessary for this nation. And so a lot of think tanks have said, come on, we need to restructure this country. It is what is needed. Before you go, with all of these insecurities that we have on our hands, don't you think, on a second thought, and a benefit of hindsight, that restructuring or readjustment of our structure as a country and fixing of our constitution is an urgent matter that needs to be brought to the table?
Well, I have no problem with restructuring, but like I said, restructuring means a lot to many people. Is there a national consensus as to what this restructuring is supposed to look like? That is one. Number two, how do you go into some such? I'm not speaking now for the president, but I'm speaking my mind as a citizen. But how do you go into such major endeavor when you are even trying to stabilize the economy, stabilize the security of the country? Can you do that in a situation of chaos? I don't think it makes sense for us. We have to take first things first. And I think President Buhari is methodical. He knows exactly what he's doing. He has been taking things step by step. And if we get the right atmosphere for that to happen, I will go for it. It's a party manifesto. It's an item on the party manifesto. And I think we will be able to do it. But in my view, in a situation where a country is virtually at war, externally and internally, with the Boko Haram on our borders, with internal banditry and so on and so forth, there is so much to chew. So at what point should the government abandon all these issues simply to address some of these, I wouldn't say agitations, but hopes and aspirations of the rest of the country? In principle, we accept as a government that restructuring will happen. But we need to do it in the right atmosphere. And how can we be talking about restructuring when the corporate existence of the country itself is being threatened? We hear all these things that IPOB is saying. We hear another group in the southwest, calling for Oduduwa Republic, and so on. We have Boko Haram. We have this and that. I think we need to stabilize the country for us to be able to sit down and think sensibly and do the right thing. Otherwise, if we're going to do this in a situation of crisis or in a situation of emotions or on impulse, we may probably not get it right. So I believe President Buhari is on course. He's doing what he needs to do, and he's methodical about it. And I believe at the right moment we'll get there. I hope that this crisis has come to an end. It will abate and run its course so that we can sit down as a nation, and then, first of all, heal wounds, restore, the security situation in the country, restore normalcy, and then we can be able to talk about these things. But I don't think in this kinds of situation that this is what we should be talking about at the moment, honestly.
Honorable Minister for Water Resources, Suleiman Adamu, thank you indeed for your time tonight on the program.
Thank you very much.
So, You've heard from the side of the government, the plan of this government in the midst of all of these crises. We will widen the conversation. I have a panel of experience in politics and governance, security, to analyze some of the issues that we have faced in the past day. But we'll take a break, and when we come back, analysis of the assessment and the destruction of property across the country. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Thank you so much, everyone, and welcome back to the program. Let's get our conversation back on track on the issue of the NSAS, the aftermath of what happened last week, the role of the military, the police, and the scale of the destruction that we witnessed in the country in the past days. On the panel tonight, we have a former Minister of Works and a former lawmaker, Senator Adesheye Ogunlewe, and also a retired military officer, Colonel Hudson Stanlabo. And virtually, Senator Shehu Sani joins us from Kaduna. Thank you so much indeed, gentlemen, for coming. So on the program tonight is a mixture of experience and expertise that we're bringing to bear. We've heard from the side of the government on what their plans are in the midst of all of this. Let me begin with you, Senator Ogunlewe. If you look at what you're a citizen of Lagos, you're from here, but Lagos has received the most of the destruction, the wanton destruction of properties that we've seen in the past days. What do you make of what has happened in most of these communities?
Well, first of all, commiserate with the governor of Lagos State and his cabinet and the members of their families for what happened to them. I pity them, and I think God will protect them so that they can go ahead with this level of frustration. Number two, I was born here, I grew up here, I went to primary school in Lagos Island. I have never witnessed this level of destruction. Never, no matter the circumstance. And when I look at it properly, because I am part of the area boys, I could see, let us differentiate between the NSAS protesters, completely different from the looters. They are not the same people at all. Responsible, well-organized protesters, that is NSAS for you. You cannot fault them because of the way they manage, whatever they were doing in terms of logistics, in terms of movement, in terms of cleaning the streets. One should give it to them that they were perfect in whatever they wanted to do. But this one destruction of property, things that will benefit the poor people. How do you now, think about who are these people who are responsible for this? And unfortunately, they are attacking the police stations. Every DPO knows what is happening. If you call them, if the governors call them and ask them, look, this thing that has happened, what do you think is responsible? They will have an answer. Because this thing is not by accident. Whatever happened, those people who perfected this destruction did so purposefully. And they are well organized to do so. So they can set up a little bit of investigation panel to say, look, what actually happened? Why did you destroy a court? Why did you enter a court premises to take whatever is there? What attracted you to that? Is this insanity, or are you okay? There are things they did that one can never believe they were done by human beings. So this is strange to me, very, very strange. You went to a whole street, looted all the shops. Are those shops government shops? Are they NSAS owners? Are they NSAS people? Are they the owners? It means you want to injure ordinary Nigerians, and who can even be part of your own family. So it is unimaginable, honestly.
So how do you describe these people?
I've been able to, in my mind.
Because you live in one of the densely populated
Yes.
areas of Lagos.
Yes.
So in your area, there were similar things, right?
No, I'm talking about the
No,
tendency.
I'm saying,
There was not. There were none. I'm talking about tendency. Who do you think could participate in this sort of thing? Let us try to, isolate them. Number one, students. Maybe tertiary institution students who are frustrated, who have been home for 7 months, and they don't know what to do. They are against government policy. So the answer to this is for the government to open tertiary institutions tomorrow, irrespective of the problem they have with them, so that we can isolate those people we can control. We can control the student, go back to school. The University Autonomy Act has already given university autonomy. Why are you now going behind to say you must control their salaries, the payment system? Find a way of monitoring them. This one is technology. You don't need record science to monitor how much is payable to anybody. It could be done scientifically. And so let us separate those ones. Number two, out-of-school children. Because I could see some children participating. What are we going to do for them? Unemployed youths, people who have graduated and they don't have any job. Do we have, full employment facilities that, as we had before, that is every Nigerian who is unemployed will be given minimum wage all over the federation? Because that is the responsibility of government, welfare of the people. You cannot abandon the people that has no jobs and you believe there is a government. No.
So the looting of COVID-19 palliatives and the destruction of properties could be linked to government's failure or what? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying it is what you should give to Nigerians.
Okay.
So that they will be part of your government.
All right.
If there is a massive unemployment and you are not taking care of me, what do you want me to do? In so many other countries in the world, this thing has happened before. What they normally do is, okay, every unemployed youth will get minimum 30,000 naira until we find job for you. It is the responsibility of government to find job for them. They cannot create jobs on themselves.
So it's the failure of the system to find this.
They must. It is your responsibility.
All right.
If you can't find job for them, you must give them money.
Colonel Salabo, from your own point of view, what do you think happened? What do you think happened that we saw Nigerians? I'm not sure these are aliens. These are Nigerians.
These are Nigerians.
And the manner in which people have behaved in the past days, how do you describe it in security terms?
First and foremost, maybe I should just chip in a little bit to what the senator said. I would want to just add this. I see the political class has been behind what's happening. I'm talking about the ongoing the boys on the streets right now. The political class, as far as I'm concerned, let out their thugs into the streets to achieve certain things. Okay? And when I say the political class, I'm looking at both the opposition politicians. I'm looking at even those in government. There are reasons for which each of them could be said to have done this. I don't think we need to go into other, but if you want me to go into it, fine.
I mean, because a lot of Nigerians may not understand.
Yes.
It sounds like parable to some.
Fine. The opposition class or the politicians who fall within the opposition group might have poured out their thugs into the street to frustrate the ruling party and reduce their ability to make it in 2023. That is to say, create enough problems for them on ground and let the public, the voting public like us, begin to have a terrible impression about the government.
That's a possible theory.
Yes, a possible theory. Theory two, these boys could be in the streets as a result of the ruling class or the ruling party also sending them out. Why? Why would the ruling party put them on the street? Out of desperation, seeing that, look, these boys might mess us up. We have appealed to them and they are not leaving. We've done everything we can do, they are not leaving. Now get another group that will go there and frustrate them. However, none of both parties knew they would eventually lose control of the dogs they were throwing into the streets. That is where we are now. The political class have completely, as usual, lost control of the thugs they brought out. These are the same thugs they bring out during elections. arm them, and at the end they cannot disarm them, and they turn around to hunt them. So all these are theories. All these are theories. Yeah, they are theories,
but, I mean,
which are possible.
Yeah. So
the third group are that component that falls within what I call the disgruntled element, okay, who would want to do everything they think they can do to frustrate our hard-earned democracy, which we are now enjoying. That's if we are even enjoying it, okay? And they have their own ulterior motives. So the whole thing falls within these three groupings. One of them, or all of them, will be responsible for this. And just like I said this morning to a team of youths whom I was addressing, I said, look, I appeal to your masters, the political class, to take you guys off the streets. Let them recall back their boys who are busy playing out their scripts. We are tired of these politicians. Let them pull these boys off the street for us, and let's have peace in this country.
So you blame the political class for this?
I blame the political class for what's happening.
But how do you also describe from the security standpoint also that we first of all saw what was happening in Lagos Tuesday and Wednesday, and from that point, things went really bizarre. We saw in Ondo, in Ondo State, different political party offices were being destroyed. They went after private properties also. In Cross River, we saw what happened. In Delta State, in Ogun State, in Oyo State, in Jalingo. In almost every part of the country, we saw how these young people, in fact, in most of the storage for COVID-19 palliatives, see that on your screen, you see them just going and breaking into this.
Yes.
How did we lose the security architecture?
Oh, well, of course, just like Senator here rightly said, let's look at who are those that actually make up these groups. Among these boys on the streets, you find the jobless, who, like he rightly said, we must provide for them. Okay? We must provide for them. Nigerians are really hungry out there. Times are hard. We have daily do I say the non-organized class that earn on a daily basis to be able to take care of their families on a daily basis, who, given the situation, cannot fend enough to take care of their children, take care of their families, and so on. Some could be frustrated, especially the younger ones amongst them, to join these groups. I'm looking at vulcanizers. I'm looking at, you mentioned it. Okay? So these are the ones that make up this group. There is hunger everywhere. And to worsen it all, eventually along the line, they started discovering warehouses where palliatives were being kept. Some of them are actually meals, food items and so on. So, it escalated everything. Even those who were not interested in joining now went in just to see how much food they can cut home to their families. So the whole thing became, got to a point where you just couldn't understand anymore. How do we control this?
That we will come to how we can get that controlled. And of course, I would like to, since we have you in the studio, get you to talk about the role of the military in a lot of these, because that a major crisis stemmed from that. But let me get you to see, I'll quickly come to Senator Ogunlewe. The president released a statement, the presidency released a statement today, and these are some of the things attributed to the president. The president in that statement said, the president who said he had all along avoided going into a debate about the Lekki toll gate incident until all the facts are established, appeal to the people all over the country to maintain peace and brotherhood as the machinery of the government and the will of justice turn against the perpetrators of murder, arson, stealing, rape, assault, and malicious damage of public and private property. The presidency went further to say that, as mentioned in two successive statements on this issue, the president and his administration have taken note of the grievances of the people. We have heard you loud and clear, he said, and has shown a clear determination to take all necessary measures to address the complaints. The violence must stop. The president also condemned hate messages and eviction notices to ethnic and religious groups, asking Nigerians to take pride in the fact that our diverse people have been living with one another in harmony for ages. Senator Ogunlewe, your reaction to the president's statement?
That is a lot more appropriate. than the former one. You know, anybody who has been in government, it is the writer of your speech that determines what you read. You will not be able to even assimilate the content of your speech as you are reading it along. So maybe they wanted to please him. They wrote what would not be acceptable to the public. Because this one is a lot more, you know, sweetening.
Addresses the issues.
Of what to do. But it has not gone enough. Why I'm saying so? El-Rufai, the president set up El-Rufai's committee on restructuring.
The APC did that.
It's a party. You know, once the man is a president, he's a president. He's not an APC president. We are running the presidential system.
I meant to say that it was the party at the time, headed by John Oyegun, that set up the...
It must be to his knowledge. You cannot do anything. He's the leader of the country. He should have now submitted a memo, a law to the National Assembly to make sure that that decision is actualized. You cannot just be taking, you know, recommendation from committees and it is taking 1 year, 2 years, 3 years for you to actualize it. Let a committee sit down, write a white paper, send it to the National Assembly so that they can have the process of, you know, actualizing whatever you intend to do.
So in this statement, you think the president addressed the issue?
No.
This president I just read out where he spoke about the issue of the Lekki because there were criticism that he omitted the issue of the Lekki toll gate incident. But now he said, the statement said the president who said he had all along avoided going into a debate about the Lekki toll gate incident until all the facts are established. And he talked about not dividing the country. You think that this statement of today addressed the situation of Nigerians?
You know, some people must have gone to him to tell him this speech did not address this. Can we write another one? That's all. It is not that he did not know that this thing existed. I don't believe so. But this one is a lot better. And it has addressed the issue. And everybody you must agree with him.
Frankly speaking, Shehu, the first speech by Mr. President was an empty speech. I'm sorry to say that. That speech did not address the aspirations or the expectations of the ordinary Nigerian on the street. That speech did not connect with the Nigerians. That speech did not speak to the issues, including, for instance, the Lekki Gates issue, which he just touched on. That first speech would have been a speech that would have really taken on, awoken every Nigerian to the fact that, okay, the father of the nation has spoken. It didn't. It was long on rhetorics, short on action, completely, as far as I'm concerned. It is now that an attempt is being made by his speechwriters. Anyway, I blame his speechwriters, just like the senator said. I blame his speechwriters for not articulating a proper speech. When there are issues going on like this, as a speechwriter on your own, without Mr. President telling you anything, you begin to put down certain things on your own. So by the time the president is saying, give me a speech on this, you only just go and knock out those things that are not part of what he wants, reframe it, and give him a draft.
But if you look at it, he said in the last speech, he was criticized for not mentioning the Lekki toll gate.
Yes.
But now he has mentioned it. And I understand how, I remember having a conversation with the aide of the president who said the DHQ has spoken about the incident, the role of the military. You have been in the military. Does the military or army officers, do they usually get deployed into scenes of protests?
Into scenes of protest? Well, it depends on the situation. For instance, normally we know that's an IS or internal security duty responsibilities, which falls within the ambit of police functions. If the police is overwhelmed, of course, they call on military assistance. And there is a procedure, there is a drill, and so on.
But in that incident, was it necessary to have called for the military?
It is the police that would, the police feels it. If they know they need to call in the military, they'll call in the military. The question now is whether was the military called in. You and I seated here cannot know. But definitely, I know the military wouldn't step in without an authority saying step in.
But what is the rule of engagement in that kind of incident, in the use of any kind of ammunition or any kind of tools whatsoever available for use of an officer?
Yes, the policy of minimum force, application of minimum force comes in now. If you have to go into anything like that, first and foremost, you do what we call a threat analysis. That will be able to let you know how much force with which you go in. You don't use a hammer to kill a mosquito.
All right. So,
all right?
All right. Let's take a breather. I would like you to talk a bit more, because if we're looking at a way forward and restoring peace into the country, we also need to know what has happened and how we can get out of here.
Yeah.
We need peace and calm in the country. And that's why I've brought experienced people on the program tonight. Thank you so much. We'll take a break. And when we return, how do we restore peace in the country following the looting and criminal behaviors? The Inspector General of Police has spoken and directed his officers. Get details of what he said after now, everyone. Join us again. All right. Welcome back, everyone. Let's get back to the conversation. I've been speaking with Colonel Alson Stanlabo, a retired military officer, and also Senator Adeshaye Ogunlewe, a former Minister of Works and a former senator. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming. Before we went on that break, we were getting clarity on the role of the military.
Rules of engagement?
Rules of engagement.
Okay.
You were saying that, well, if the
yes,
military could have been
I
called...
did talk about the application of minimum force. Yes.
So, I mean...
after a due...
in the deployment of a military officer to that kind of scene, would you deploy... You've been a commander here in Lagos. Would you deploy officers with firearms?
That's why I said minimum force will be applied.
No, what I'm saying, the question is that
yes,
usually if you're going to the farm to harvest and to plant, you use different tools. So I'm saying, would you, as a commander...
Can you allow me to answer the
absolutely.
question?
I just wanted to lay premise.
I got it.
Absolutely.
I just want to answer it. First of all, I said minimum, application of minimum force. However, how do you define your minimum force? You need to carry out a threat analysis, which defines to you what your minimum force will be. Minimum force can be a tank. Minimum force can be a button. Don't mistake it. Good. Now, going to the aspect you want to hear. Would you come in with lethal arms? Am I right?
Absolutely.
Good. It is not every protest that you apply the kinetic option. Do you understand me? In some protests, you could apply the carrot. That's going by our carrot and stick diplomacy. I could go in there and talk out with you. More so when you look at the group you are going to meet. These are a sophisticated group of youths. They are not these hooligans who are on the street. These are doctors, lawyers, engineers, and so on. They are well read, they are exposed. If you send me in there as an officer, I will beg for a microphone and address the crowd. By the time I'm done addressing the crowd, at best we'll see ourselves discussing. And then I plead with them. You must humble yourself.
But is that in the training of an average military officer?
How you achieve...
Civil engagement is a part of...
Hold it. How you achieve your mission is entirely your business. What your commander behind, what the higher commander wants to see is, did you get the men out of, did you get the boys out of that place? Yes, sir, I did, without firing a single shot. It's a credit to you.
Colonel Salabo, I wanted you to get something also.
Yes,
because in that kind of deployment, usually would that kind of deployment come from the CNC, or it can just come from the garrison commander?
No, you see, to start with, nobody brings out a body of men. When I say men, I'm referring to the armed forces now, without the commander-in-chief giving his directive. However, that does not mean that for every little thing, the commander-in-chief is a very busy man. If a blanket go-ahead has been given, that, look, take care of these situations. That's all. the operational orders goes down and so on. It gets to where it should get to, and then the division or the brigade or the unit that has been assigned to carry out a particular task carries this out. That is not to mean, get me right, that the president authorized what happened at Lekki. No, we should not get it mixed up.
He may not be aware.
Good. Good. People may just be acting based on all the past blanket instructions that have been given.
So,
so now the issue is who is responsible directly for this?
For the deployment.
Good.
Now, just shortly before, briefly before we go to Senator, the big question of the assessment, the investigation that is going on.
Yeah.
If those bullets or those shots have been fired from the guns of military officers, would you say you're disappointed in that kind of scenario?
Since I was not on ground, I cannot just make a statement, I cannot substantiate.
If unprovoked?
If unprovoked, yes, I'll be disappointed. If provoked, to what extent? Was it endangering your life? These are questions that will be asked. You see, that is why I have said one thing all along. To me, and frankly, if I were to be in the position in the army, right at the top, I would rather opt maybe for an international investigation. You know why? Good, I would explain to you. Easily as a soldier, if you fire a shot, I can, to an extent, tell you what type of weapon you use. Is that a general purpose machine gun? Is that an AK-47? Is that a Kalashnikov? Or is it a pistol? By my training, I can differentiate from the sound. That is one. But if, for instance, an investigation is carried out now, and I come saying, what was fired was a blank ammunition, the civilian who is reading the report, will they believe me? But if it were to be an international body who knows what we are talking about and comes out with its independent report, fine. Because, for instance, we have looked at part of the footages, which we've all seen on television.
But from the sound of in the video, what kind of bullet do you think were fired?
I wouldn't want to what's it called now, interfere into whatever investigations that is going on. But the point I want to make is this. From the pellets, the empty cases and so on, it looks like it was blanks that were fired. That's one.
Could those blanks kill?
No, blanks can kill.
They can't?
No, blanks cannot kill.
They cannot kill?
Blanks can kill. At worst, at very short range, at worst, it could create some injury.
All right, just
but
a
it
moment,
can't kill.
Colonel. Senator, he was looking for peace and restoration of order in the country. There's been a large scale of disorder in the country. How do you hope that this government can get things back? We've seen disruption of businesses in Lagos. What are your thoughts?
National Reconciliation, Committee should go around and listen to people. Nobody has an answer because individuals have problem with this government or with any government. So let them now write a report and it will be presented. So many people have a lot of things that they want to advise the government on. But the government may not be accessible as they would have wanted. So that is a big problem. In some other places where I have worked, on a daily basis, you will see over 200 Nigerians with the president every night. Let me repeat myself. You will see over 200 Nigerians with the president every night.
Why?
That is his own style. You open the gate, you open your door, you can discuss with people. But when the people have no access to you, it's a problem. But some people, it's a matter of your style. Where you have a governor or a president or a minister who is not accessible to the masses, it's a problem.
All right. So let me, in just 30 seconds, let me get your final thought.
My final thought is that I would want to advise government to please see all they can do to get these dogs off the streets. And I'm appealing to the political class. Secondly, try to see how you meet up with those demands made by the NSAS good youths. And then thirdly, we have issues with governance delivery, which consider those aspects of demands that will take that are expected to be addressed in the longer term frame. Begin to set in machinery towards addressing them, like reforms of the police, and so on.
All right. Senator, in 30 seconds, your final thoughts.
Let the president present a bill on restructuring to the National Assembly. It is not a rocket science. If you say we are a federation, that is the minimum composition of a federation. Let us have it. Once we have it in the bill, everybody will be expecting that something will going to happen. But don't just believe that, no, I don't understand what you mean by restructuring.
All right.
Whichever one you understand, let the bill go to the National Assembly. Then people will be adding.
All right. Senator Adesha Ogunlewe, a former senator and former Minister of Works, and Colonel Hassan Stanlabo, a retired military officer. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming tonight.
Thank you, sir.
And just before we go, and here is my final word. It's a long week pregnant with deep lessons for us all. For me, I see an awakening in the people and the leadership too, jolted to reality of their real calling and the essence of their being at the helm of affairs. I hope we have learned our lessons and the people concerned now know that it will necessarily not be the game as usual. Sound judgment and reason must now prevail. Citizens and the leadership. The people are the bosses and the leaders are the servants, although it doesn't quite work like that in today's world, but that is how it should be. We should be wiser as a people to discern those who are out to take advantage of our vulnerable moments as a nation. When there is a little fracas between this big family called Nigeria, they use our major national fault lines to divide us, ethnicity and religion. What were we talking about in the first place? NSAS and good governance. That's what they are seeking. And before we knew it, they already made it a matter of religion and ethnicity. And those who know less began to burn and destroy the infrastructure we complain so much that we lack. The past week highlighted the war between the truth and fake news. It fueled the anger and rage. Let's think deeply and know that whenever we had crises in this country and ethnicity and religion played any role, it never ended well. If we fight or disagree, do not let them divide us with those narratives. It is a distraction, and now we should know better. And going forward, those highlights in our leadership recruitment process, the structural imbalance in our nation must be worked upon. And these past days must remind us all the existence as a people and the need to work hard on getting this nation to work for us all. And that is my final word, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. That's our show tonight. Many thanks. I'm Sean Kimale. Bye-bye.